Today I'm going to talk about Jaimini sutras for determining if someone is a conjurer, an alchemist, or a healer. And when I say conjurer, Jaimini actually calls them mantrikas, which is the Sanskrit word for someone who does incantations and spells, someone knowledgeable in spells that uses mantra, which is to alter reality, and that what we do in the West when we do witchcraft. Now, in Occult Astrology 3, I described if somebody had their spiritual deity as witchcraft or shamanism, summoning low spirits, as they call it. I talked about that in Occult Astrology 3. These sutras are different in that when the person has these particular planetary combinations, then they are either doing it for a living or they become very famous for it. So yeah, that's it. So the first one is a conjurer, or a mantrika, as Jaimini says, and his sutra is a malefic in both the trines, one knowing sacred spells. That's the first. And so a malefic in both the trines, what does that mean? Well, it means that a malefic has to be in the trines, which are the 5th and 9th, or the 1st, which I found personally. The 1st is also a trine. It's an angle and a trine. So there has to be a malefic in the 1st, 5th, or 9th from the Atmakaraka. I found it to work with just there being one malefic in a trine, and or having a malefic with the Atmakaraka. So you'll see here. Now this is Sybil Leek. I'm going to do Sybil Leek. She's a famous witch, I guess you could say, for lack of a better word. That she lives in England, and she's very famous. She's also an astrologer, and she's written several books on the occult. And she's pretty big, pretty famous. The next person I'm going to do is Aleister Crowley. Obviously, everybody knows who he is. Hopefully, if you're watching this video, I'm sure you know who Aleister Crowley is. And then I'm doing someone called Asko Jantunen. He is a Finnish acupuncturist, or a healer. And so those are the three I'm going to do today. And I'm starting with Sybil Leek. So here's Sybil Leek's chart. Here's her birth data. I'll put it in the description if you want to bring it up on your own software and see what I'm talking about. And I just want to reiterate here that I use the Tropical Zodiac. I do not use sidereal. So these positions are all tropical. Okay? And so anyway, Sybil Leek. On the outside here, on the outside is the Rashi, or the birth chart. This is the birth chart of Sybil Leek on the outside. On the inside, this is her Navamsha, the 9th Divisional Chart, which I've always also put in the description so you can calculate it. And so what we're looking for, according to Jaimini, is we're looking at the Swamsha, or where the Atmakaraka is in the Navamsha, and we look in the birth chart, in the Rashi, or the birth chart. So, okay, so Sybil Leek, her Atmakaraka is Saturn, and Saturn is here in Cancer. Okay, so we're going to count the trines. There's got to be malefic in the trines, either in the 1st, 5th, or 9th, or a combination thereof. That also works as well. So from Saturn, Cancer, if we count 5, we go here to Pisces. Remember, we count backwards for feminine signs. So Pisces has 2 malefics, the Sun and Mars, and the Moon, which is a benefic in this chart. Yeah, it is. Let's see. Where's the Sun? Yeah, it is a benefic because it's a new moon, but it's waxing. Her moon has more degrees than her sun. So she's got a benefic there and 2 malefics. She also has a malefic. She has Ketu with her Atmakaraka in this birth chart. So that satisfies her for being a conjurer. Now, Also, you look in the Navamsha. I recommend looking in the Navamsha first, just because it's more specific. But you can also look in the Rashi. It comes up in both those charts. All right, so in her Navamsha, she has her Atmakaraka is an Aquarius. There it is, Saturn. So Aquarius is a masculine sign. So we count 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's Rahu. So, and Saturn is a malefic too. So there's a malefic as her AK, her Atmakaraka, and a malefic in the 5th from her Atmakaraka. And there's nothing in the 9th, but I found if it works in the birth chart as well, you can go with that. It's just kind of a combination thereof in the 1st, 5th, or 9th. And it has to be, you know, one of those two, or two of those three. I'm sorry. 2 out of 3. So, okay. And then the next sutra, that Jaimini says is a malefic in aspect, injuring, suppressing. So that means if there is a malefic in aspect to the trines from her Atmakaraka, so meaning if there's a malefic aspecting Pisces, that's the 5th from her Cancer, or aspecting the 9th, which would be Scorpio. There's nothing there, nothing. There's a malefic. Rahu is aspecting Scorpio. This is the Rashi aspects that I have explained in several videos before. If you don't know what those are, you can look at my Occult Astrology too, and where I explain Rashi aspects in depth. So, so that means when it says injuring, suppressing, a malefic in aspect, injuring, suppressing, it means that the person has done spells or try to manipulate reality to hurt somebody, or to suppress their negativity, suppress their health. You know, she's actually done things to attack somebody else through black magic or what have you. There's also another sutra after that says a benefic in aspect, promoting good by incantation. So if there is a benefic in aspect to either her Atmakaraka or her 5th from her Atmakaraka or her 9th from her Atmakaraka, and there's actually nothing in aspect there. I'm sorry, there is 2 benefics in aspect, Venus and Mercury, and they Rashi aspect her Saturn here, okay? And then she also has a benefic moon in the 5th from the trine. So that means she's done both. She's done black magic and white magic, or she's done spells to help people, to cure people, you know, given them whatever, you know, they wanted or asked of her. And there's a lot of, there's just a big philosophical question about what is injuring, suppressing, and what is doing good. You know, is good, if you want to, you know, if you have a drug addict come to you and say, you know, I need a score and I don't have any money, can you help me do this? Is that a good thing? You know, you're actually, you know, it's satisfying this person's desire, but it's hurting them in, you know, as well. And then also, you know, you have, a lot of people that practice these types of things try to manipulate reality to get what they want, or to get into somebody's mind. It might not be hurting the other person, but, you know, they're trying to get a job or sex or whatever it is. So, is that good or bad? I mean, they're trying to satisfy their desires and going about it in an unconventional way, but it's not really hurting anybody. So there's, you know, kind of a dilemma about what is good and what is bad. So, you know, you have to kind of make your own moral decision when it comes to that. So, okay, so that's one. That's Sybil Leek, and I put her birth data down in the description in case you want to research her on your own. Okay, so now, all right, Aleister Crowley. and put in Crowley's positions. I don't use the Navamsha with Aleister Crowley because his birth chart is just so powerful in that regard. I want to mention too that, okay, so in the Rashi, you know, everybody born on that same day, roughly, you know, depending on if the moon changes signs or if the moon moves into Atmakaraka position, but quite a lot of people are going to be born, you know, on the same day, obviously, and not all of them are going to be conjurers or mantrikas. And what kind of distinguishes that is the 8th house. The person has to have a very prominent 8th house in their chart. Or the 8th house is the house of black magic, conjuring, that kind of thing. So, and psychics, people who do, it's a hidden occult house, and it's the biggest one. It's the 8th house corresponds to the 8th sign of Scorpio. So it's a hidden house. So when you go, that house has a lot to do with hidden things or secret types of things, ceremonies, things like that. So when you see these combinations in someone's chart, and if you're an astrologer, you're going to naturally have a lot of these people coming to you anyway. But if they have a strong 8th house, they must have 8th house placements that are prominent. Meaning, you know, the Atmakaraka in the 8th house, the Ascendant Lord in the 8th house, the Moon in the 8th house, you know, whatever it is. And so you need to look for that as well for it to really kick in, you know, these sutras. So, okay. Let's get these out here. All right, so Aleister Crowley. Let's see, it's a Sun, Venus, K2. All right, he has the Sun, Venus, and K2 in Libra. And then that's not really good. Sun K2 combinations, and especially in Libra, because Libra is the sign where the sun is debilitated. It doesn't make for a very a man with integrity or an honorable man. And there's a couple of other examples. I mean, it's not obviously all men that have Sun K2 in Libra, but K2 does not like the sun, and Rahu does not like the moon. So Rahu is actually called moon troubler, and K2 is inimical to the sun. It takes away the confidence, usually, and especially in men. So yeah, I just wanted to point it out. That just popped in my head, so I figured I would just say that. Okay, and then he's got Rahu, moons, Rahu, Moon, Saturn, and Mars. Okay. All right, so this is Aleister Crowley's chart. His ascendant is Leo. So when I put this little diagonal line, the diagonal line is the ascendant. Okay, that's how they write it or draw it in the South Indian chart. Okay, so Crowley's Atmakaraka is Venus. So here it is, Venus. It's with 2 malefics in the trine, in the first house, or in the swa. The Karakamsha is what they call it when it's in the birth chart. They call it the Swampsha when it's in the Navamsha, or the swa. But when it's in the birth chart, they call it Karakamsha. So, but it doesn't matter, you know, you can either look in either one of these charts. If you see it in the Navamsha or if you see it here in the Rashi, that should kind of say, ooh, you know, a light should go off in your head, and then you look for 8th house things. So anyway, Crowley, so it's in Libra, masculine sign, so we count the trines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, there it is. There is a malefic in the trine. Okay, he doesn't have anything in the 9th from his, in Gemini, from his Atmakaraka in the Rashi or birth chart, but he has 2 malefics in the first, or in the with his Atmakaraka, so that applies. Now, it says, if there are malefics in aspect, then injuring, suppressing. So, does he have malefics in aspect? Yes, he does. See, these, with the Rashi aspects, Aquarius aspects Libra. It always aspects the fixed signs, always aspect the movable sign or the cardinal signs, except for the one next to them. So Saturn and Aquarius are looking at Libra, so that it is aspecting his Navamsha or his Atmakaraka. So he has done spells to injure people, to suppress people, and I'm sure, I know that's pretty documented anyway. Has he done good? Yes. So he's got, and another thing too is Rahu aspects the 5th from his Atmakaraka. Rahu aspects Saturn. So he's doing a lot more to injure, suppress than he is doing good. The good part is he has Jupiter aspecting his Atmakaraka Venus in Libra. So he's also done things to help people, actually. So, but more to injure and suppress. But he definitely has these combinations. And then the 8th house. Now, I don't use an equal house system. I use 8th house cusps, or I use cusps based on the Campanus house system, because Campanus is one of the systems, I think one of only 2 systems, or it might be the only one, that actually doesn't fall apart when you get into the higher and lower latitudes. And, if you live down at the bottom of South America or Chile, it's a lot of the house systems will fall apart, especially if you live in Antarctica or something. Not that anybody's born there as far as I know, but you know what I mean, they kind of fall apart. So I just interjected that. That doesn't really matter here, but anyway, his 8th house, Crowley's 8th house is his moon, his natal moon is in the 8th house. And so he has a lot of he identifies a lot of his identity factors are related to the 8th house. Okay, so that's another example of how this works. Now, the next sutra says, Jaimini, the bright moon therein, Venus in aspect, an alchemist. When an alchemist is someone who is practicing the alchemy, turning metals into something else. The main goal was turning them into gold, turning lead into gold, and this in the Middle Ages. But it also had a secondary meaning, and that meaning is a person trying to transform themselves. In Europe, it was, you went from the Negredo to the Rubedo to the Blanco, or the white. You transferred out of hell, and actually you went black, white, red. That's how it goes. And also, in the Eastern tradition, it's developing the Linga Sharira, which is the astral body. That's what they call it. And you're trying to develop this astral body so that you can willingly leave your body, and you just basically lose all fear of death. That's what the alchemy kind of, what it promotes. That's the more esoteric meaning of it. And so alchemists were not only just working with metals, but also working with the metals of their chakras, which I kind of went into in some previous videos. Now, so if you have a bright moon in the 5th from the Atmakaraka, so let's say Crowley, instead of having Saturn there, he had moon there, and Venus aspected that, which it currently does aspect Saturn. But if the moon was there, then he would be more concerned with alchemy and transforming himself and transforming his psyche and basically his spiritual body, anything like that. So the bright moon therein, Venus in aspect. So Venus in aspect to any trines from the Atmakaraka, and a moon there too, will cause the person to be very interested in transformation, alchemical transformation. The slipped my mind. Okay, it'll just come back later. Okay. All right, so the next person is Asko Jantunen, and he is the Finnish acupuncturist. And I'm going to talk about healers, what makes a healer. And not just acupuncturists, but anybody who does a type of healing like Reiki or hands-on healing or things of that nature. So here we go. All right, this guy's name is... Okay, I put his information down in the description too if you want to research him. And like I said before, I always use Tropical Zodiac, so I'm not using sidereal. Okay, so his... Okay, so Jaimini says if Mercury is an aspect to the moon in one of the trines from the Atmakaraka, so if Mercury is with the moon in the 5th from the moon, if Mercury is aspecting the 5th from the Atmakaraka, the 9th from the Atmakaraka, or the Atmakaraka itself, and the moon is with the Atmakaraka in the 5th from the Atmakaraka or in the 9th from the Atmakaraka, then that is a healer combination. Moon-Mercury combinations give the person healing ability. Now to give it really a kick, to make it actually kick in and work for the person, where somebody is really a healer, is when the 6th house is involved. Either the ruler of the 6th house, they're in the 6th house, the Karakamsha is the 6th house, the Swamsha is the 6th house, or join the 6th house cusp in the Navamsha. Because the 6th house is the house of healing, health, and disease. And that has to show up somewhere as well, just like the 8th house has to show up for a conjurer. Okay, so this is Asko Jantunen. I don't know how to say his name. Jantunen or Jantunen. He's Finnish, and he is an acupuncturist, and he brought acupuncture to Finland. So, pretty important person. His Atmakaraka is the moon. So, it is the moon. So, you will see here in his, this is the outside squares are the Rashi, or the birth chart, and the inside is the Navamsha. So his Atmakaraka is the moon, okay, and here it is in Leo, okay. He's got Mercury with the moon right there. So his Atmakaraka being with Venus and Mercury, especially the Venus or the Moon Mercury combo will give healing ability. Now, how does the 6th house show up? Well, his ascendant is Scorpio, so his 6th house is Aries, also ruled by Mars. Mars is also the planet of cutting and needles and that kinds of things. So when you have Mars prominent and the 6th house prominent, and the healer combination, the person is probably going to get into some kind of healing type of profession that involves cutting or poking or, Mars types of things, burning off. And then if you have Venus, like he has Venus too with his Moon-Mercury combination, Venus is luxury type of healings, like a massage, or even Reiki, where you're using your hands and it's more comforting. You're not cutting away and you're not poking somebody. So he has that. Mars is his ascendant lord, his Lagna lord, and it rules the 6th house too. And so Mars rules cutting. So there you go. So that's it. That's what Jaimini says about either being a conjurer, mantrika, or an alchemist, or a healer. So, and not a lot of people know, you know, when they think of alchemy, they think, oh, that just means they're a chemist, but that's not true. An alchemist is someone who, you know, really tries to transform themselves and build a new Übermensch from their practices. Okay, so that's all for today. Tomorrow I'm going to do a video. I'm going to talk about disease. That Jaimini, he gives a few combinations for chronic diseases and chronic illnesses outside of the regular Parashara medical astrology. So that's what I'll do tomorrow, and thanks for watching. Bye.